G'day, my name's Mark. I'm from Townsville, North Queensland in Australia, and I like to make things out of pallet wood. And yes, this is all off a pallet. Okay, this project I'm going to make the bench top for this bar table. I'm going to use all this timber because the steel frame is already made. There's not a heap of woodworking going on. In the video I'm also going to include the jig that I made to show you how I straighten and square up all this timber so it's ready to use. There are heaps of ways to make a jig like this. I've chosen this style so it's a little more versatile for some other projects I have coming up in the future. So what I do have, I've got a heap of this nice timber. So what I call nice timber is the coloured stuff basically, but it's all wonky as. Okay? I've got heaps of it, comes straight off the pallet and it's this poor. So there's a job I should have done a long time ago, that's make myself a straightening jig, like jointing on the table saw. I don't have a jointer. What I'm going to do is use this old board and this hardware that I've got that I incorrectly bought when I got this T-Track, which was for a miter saw. The reason I'm going with this one is I also want to be able to straighten out my slabs. So during my clamping process, sometimes even these slabs will get a bit of a warp in them, and I've got to start with a nice straight edge. So I'm going to utilise this same sled to help me out with those and speed up the process. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm going to use this old board, which was the previous bench top on my miter saw station, which you can see on the left hand side there. I have put out a quick video on how I made that station, as well as another video on a dust hood for the new Bosch miter saw that I bought. But today it's all about this jig and making this bar. So for this jig, very simple, cut yourself a bit of board. I'm routing out some grooves that the T-Track is going to slot into. I'll screw those into place, and that'll allow that T-Track hardware to be adjustable and allow me to put all sorts of pieces of timber to run them through the table saw and get my first straight edge. So this is basically it, very simple. Just clamp down your piece of timber, run it through the table saw, you've got your first straight edge. Now the only downside to this is it is quite messy, so all the sawdust doesn't really have a chance to get sucked down into the blade there because it is elevated. I have rigged up my extraction to try and catch a little bit of it, but it's just one of those things. But it's worth the effort to get this nice timber nice and square. These are all my other warped pieces of the nice coloured timber that I've been saving up for about a year. Really excited to finally be able to use them. So it's a fairly long process straightening all this timber, so I'm stacking up 2 or 3 pieces at a time, clamping them down and running them through. Okay, I've just used this jig to put a nice straight edge on all of this timber. I'm now going to run it through the table saw to get a parallel edge. That does not mean that the opposing edge is square. You can use this jig to get that job done. However, I just need to get it to nice parallel usable pieces so I can clamp all this timber together, because the final flattening is going to happen with the thicknesser. So this thing is awesome. If you don't have a thicknesser, if you don't have a jointer, this is going to get the job done, and I'm very happy with it. Cool, let's get down.
So here's the other reason I went for this particular straightening jig. I want to be able to put my slabs onto the jig, get one nice straight edge again before I can run it through the table saw to get all the slabs nice and parallel so they're then ready for a perfect glue up. So check out all the tones in this timber. I know most of it is Murbar. There are heaps of other species that I still haven't identified, and I'm only learning as I go. There's no pine in this one. It's all those nice soft chocolate and latte tones, and I'm just loving how this thing's coming together. Okay, here's a step that I don't normally do, but it's something that I should have been doing a long time ago. So I'm using dowel to align all these slabs. That's going to help me ensure that I get a nice flat perfect glue up in the final clamping stages.
Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a feature on this bar top. Normally I'd see the end grains on the sides, but I just want to come up and over, down the other side. So I'm going to miter both edges of this. Hopefully it goes to plan and it looks okay. If not, I guess we'll be seeing the end grain. So let's see how we go. Wish me luck.
So I'm just going to use the circular saw to get my first straight edge. I'm then going to use the table saw. I'm going to push it to its limits, but I'm basically going to do all my cuts, including the miters, through this table saw. You will see me struggling a little bit. That's purely because of the size of the slab, and more so that I don't have a big enough outfeed table. So I'm sort of supporting the weight as it goes through. It's nice and safe, it's nice and slow, but I have pushed the table saw to the limit, but you will see that it was effective to get these 45 miters cut to get those waterfall features on the edge. And here's another hot tip. Don't forget to put your dust extraction back on your table saw. Have a look at this mess. I'm now simply going to glue and clamp this 45-degree miter to achieve that overflow or that continuous grain look on the front of the bar. You will notice I've just got a bit of timber supporting that small piece just to avoid it cracking basically during the cutting through the table saw process.
Okay, so the grand plan to have waterfall on both the front and back edges, that hasn't worked purely because I didn't make this slab big enough. So the front edge has got the nice mitered waterfall and it looks pretty cool. That'll do for now. This bar is designed to go up against the wall, so it's not a big deal. I just wanted to try something different on this. I've got the effect I wanted. Both would have been nicer, but it doesn't really matter. This is the other side of the bar. I'm just putting on a cheap oil-based clear coat purely to seal it up. When I do the top, I'm going to go with a nicer wipe-on poly. Some of these oil bases do yellow up some of the lighter timbers, but hopefully the better stuff on top will get a nicer result. Anyway,
I'm really loving the tones of these timbers, and this wipe-on poly, it is the bee's knees. Like, check out the colors pop. It's just so easy to put on. There's no brush strokes, there's no mess. It is awesome. So that's it for the bar table, all done. I'm really happy with how it turned out, the contrast of the steel frame with all the timber up top. Just to let you know, I'm also on Instagram. Come over there and have a chat. Always happy to answer your questions and have a bit of a laugh. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate the support, and I will see you on the next video.